And now cardinals from around the world are heading to the Vatican as preparations are made for Pope Francis's funeral. Let's bring in Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersky for more on that. Hi, Aaron. I know you covered the last transition when Pope John Paul II died. What was that like, and how will this be different?
Well, they're different individuals. John Paul was such a global figure, not that Francis isn't, but the crowds were overwhelming, lining Via della Conciliazione all the way to the Vatican to just catch a glimpse. And we'll wait to hear today from the College of Cardinals what the schedule is going to be, when he will lie in state, for how long, when the funeral might be, when the conclave might begin. All of that will inform how mourners, how Catholics from around the world come to the Vatican to pay their respects to Francis. And he was, as Colleen was mentioning, such a transformative figure, someone who redefined the modern papacy. I think there's going to be a good deal of affection shown toward him, because he did try to make the church more inclusive, more collegial, more welcoming. And for the cardinals who will choose his successor, 80% of which were chosen by Francis himself, it'll be a real test of how lasting that path is. Do they choose that, or do they choose sort of the nostalgia of a more traditional past to move the church forward?
So, Aaron, what are you hearing about what's happening at the Vatican right now?
Well, interestingly, because it's sort of the end of Holy Week and Easter Monday, much of official Vatican was not at work. And so they had to, I think, scramble to get everybody up to speed. We understand there is to be a meeting of the cardinals who are in Rome, who are resident in Rome. That's about 24 or so, maybe others who were there visiting for Easter. And they will be the ones to really decide how things move forward, when to move Francis's body from his living quarters into St. Peter's Square for public viewing, or wherever he's going to lie in state. When the funeral could be, maybe as soon as this weekend. We just don't know. But it all happens with a degree of official formality and regalia to pay proper respects to the Pope, and then to prepare the Church and the faithful for the next Pope.
There will be 9 days of mourning. Then the Pope's body will lie in state at St. Peter's Basilica. What are you watching for there?
Always the crowds. It is such a mix of emotions. I remember from John Paul the good deal of sadness, but mixed with affection for the man, a great deal of thanks for what he stood for and represented. The fact that he was Polish, that drew a whole other kind of crowd. And it'll be interesting to see whether the first non-European pope in 1,300 years draws a similarly diverse crowd of people to Rome for mourning and for the funeral.
All right, Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersky, thank you.